Thankfully, there's a lot of ladies in the room, right? Okay, guys, are we okay with starting? Everyone good? Okie doke. Should we turn off the music? In the interim, while we figure out the music, I would love for everyone to go around the room, give me a little bit about who you are, why you're here, what you're doing, and if podcasting or recording yourself talking about your expertise is something you're interested in the future. And we'll start over here. Yay. Beautiful. Yeah, sorry. Oh, yay. Okay, beautiful. You never know. Beautiful. You could. I love it. We'll be hearing Robin's first episode later today, which is so exciting. It's going to be great. There's always cuts. Kid. And I'm Tori Daly. Currently, I work in operations for event. We sat and talked the other day, and she's like, "We should just be recording this whole thing." And so that's our plan. We're hoping that we can. Create meaningful brands and then create a lot. Sarah, and I'm just so excited to like hear what she has to say. And I love this. Oh, thank you. Add to that, Jerry and I have started a podcast. Oh, yay. It's going to launch in February. It's called What You've Heard. Lesson. So far, I pointed to this coffee. I got it. I pointed to some poached eggs today. I got that, so that was great. But basically, we're looking forward to learning a lot. Surrounded. Great. So, as we can see, there seems almost 50-50 people that are interested in podcasts and people that would like to have their own. Whether you're a listener or you're creating your own podcast, I think it's pretty evident that we've seen a really huge uptick in all sorts of people, namely regular old people like us, sharing their expertise, their life, their thoughts, their feelings. And as a 15-year publicist, I've been on all sides of the media, and I can tell you the safest place for any of us normal people to be is right in front of the microphone that we own. There is a really beautiful ability for you to take even a $5 microphone you buy at Five Below and share what your experience is and share what your passions are and align that all with your purpose and make a really big difference. And for me, that was my biggest impotence in wanting to create a podcast. Being a 15-year publicist, there were so many individuals that I've worked with and wanted to be able to help. But if they didn't have a 5-6 figure budget to be able to get in front of these larger audiences that would give the financial windfall that their businesses were all looking for, it was falling really flat in terms of the amount of exposure that I was able to get them. And it really led me to become really disenfranchised in public relations and paid media in general, which is anything you lay your eyeballs on all day long. And unfortunately, there is a great paywall that is prohibiting a lot of really wonderful people sharing their talents with the world. So I started my podcast. It'll be 2 years in April. After I'm from Cape May County, I lived in Philadelphia for 18 years, didn't come back after college, and again, being very disenfranchised with PR, I was just really tired of helping businesses that weren't helping others to get big and make a lot of money. I forced my husband to move home to Cape May County, and I started the podcast. And for me, the point was to highlight individuals that were making a difference in this world with their craft, the things that they love to do, what they're good at, sharing their community to give people an understanding of those that are different from themselves. And I can say the one thing that I know you will never regret when you are sharing what your unique gifts are and what you've been given is there's going to be a moment where you realize it doesn't matter if you mess up or if someone doesn't agree with what you're saying, because there are going to be so many people out there that are desperate for the information that you and you alone have, that you've gained through your experience, that you've been able to pull together from things that you've gone through. For me, I wanted to structure this. I'm full of knowledge, so I could gab for hours, but I want to break down what the 10 points of focus would be if you're looking to just start consciously creating content in long form. So we'll say long form, anything over 5 minutes. As a publicist, I'll tell you, you are really with just this device right here, able to start a podcast live on your Instagram or on your Facebook page. It doesn't require all of these materials and things to be able to do. And in all honesty, there's a really great return right now for actual authentic content that is not edited to the moon. And there is a really great uptick on all visual platforms for that kind of content being more favored from, the studio quality, not what we're looking at here. This is lovely. People are leaning more towards an individual like me in my living room with my dog snoring on the floor in the audio than seeing someone in a Fox News adjacent media lounge where they're done as a publicist, swap someone else in for the same set. It's their turn for their show. I state this because in the beginning, I wanted to start the podcast 7 years ago. And if I would have had the courage to do it, it would have changed my life 7 years ago. And I waited 5 years. And in those 5 years, I took on a lot of clients that weren't the right fit for me. I kept a lot of unhealthy relationships around me that weren't helping me succeed professionally and were, in fact, hurting me professionally. And I realized that there was kind of a self-value, self-worth issue that I was not really able to exercise until I started thrusting myself into something that was super uncomfortable, which was talking to a screen, hoping whatever wonderful person on the other side is going to be kind in the comments and not like shoot me to the moon because they don't like what I'm saying. Newsflash, no one will comment. The only people that are going to comment are going to be kind. They're going to be really supportive of what you're doing. And I can say I've got a career of network marketing in my past. And even then, trolls are trolls. They're not anywhere near you or what you're doing. They don't have the courage to even stand out beyond a screen the way that you have the courage to want to stand in front of a screen. And I think there's a really big lesson for everyone to be able to coincide with supporting your business by putting out this content that only you have the ability to share in your own unique way. And also telling yourself, like, no, I do know this. No, I am passionate about sharing this. No, I do want people to know what colonoscopies are for. And then when they're done having that procedure, I want them to be, on that little double D and just like enjoying their day. And they're not going to know what anything that I have is if I don't share it. If we don't put it out there, you can't be seen. And the fear of not putting something out there should never, like, you don't want to block your blessings out of fear. Anything that's going to terrify you enough to put it off, it's the thing you should start right then, right there. Turn it on, start talking to it, even if you don't post it. You have to take that first step. So once you've decided you're ready to take the first step, and guys, I'll say this, I'm going to give you all the show notes that I have here, every single thing I'm saying. I'm going to give you this as a podcast episode so you can hear this later. We're going to get really interactive here in a second, so don't feel too tied for your notes, but I'm a note gal, so take your notes if you want to take your notes. So I'm going to run through really quickly what the 10 points of focus are that we're going to dive into. I don't want to get too nitty gritty with the PR and the marketing of it all, because if you're a business owner, you understand at least a tad bit about what you need to be doing and what your overall focus and message is. But strategic podcast planning would be the first spot that I would look to. So what does this mean? When we're talking about strategy, I am mainly discussing the way in which I want to get my voice heard by my ideal podcast listener. So where do you start? Who's your ideal podcast listener? They're very similar to your ideal client. Whoever you were 2 years ago, whoever you were before you figured out the solution to whatever it is you're doing now. Maybe with mortgages, there was a moment where you were terrified about the thought of a mortgage for yourself just as a homeowner. And then you thought, you know what? No, this doesn't need to be a scary process. I'm going to start sharing about this. And then you created your radio show and you made so many more people feel comfortable with the thought of taking on a financial burden. Maybe they were the first in their family to do so and they didn't have an elder or someone they could go to respect and say, hey, like, I want to know more about this. You've helped countless people with what can be a very scary subject just by talking about the things that you've become comfortable with over time. Caitlin, I know you say you don't know about a podcast, but I would much rather listen to you talk about human design than others. And I think the really beautiful way that you discuss human design and you intertwine it with someone's branding is what would make it worth it for you to have that podcast. And if anyone is familiar with Caitlin's Instagram, she does a really beautiful job for not only herself, but for her clients in helping them to figure out the through line between their desires and wishes, their passions and their purpose, how it's all going to come together, and how do they audibly present that to their customers and their clients. Whatever you're looking to piece together and put on Instagram strategically is what you will be doing audibly and visually for your podcast. So what does that mean? Caitlin's Instagram shares a lot about the human design process, but simultaneous to that, she's also sharing about branding and marketing. She's taking away from the typical initiatives that we're all used to for social media because she's allowing authenticity to be the motivating factor to the content. So what does that mean? She's more likely to deliver a very authentic podcast episode because she's pulling from what she has inside about what she knows about business and how she likes to help her clients to be able to figure out what makes them feel good inside when they're doing their work and pull that out so the people watching and listening are able to immediately grab to the effect of it. And in essence, you've created a living form of advertising that's allowing people to gravitate to you, to like what you're doing. I've been telling Robin since the day I met her, girl, you need to be in front of people and sharing your energy. Robin's podcast is going to be full of energy, information, spunk, like you got this. Who she is in person is what will be packaged into the episode. She doesn't need to reinvent the wheel. She just needs to show up and be herself. So, strategically planning around who you are as a person, maybe what your business looks like day to day. How do you want to utilize long form via speaking to be able to paint the broader picture of what your branding is, of what your services are, of who you're looking to be working with? Ideally, this will probably make you all a little uncomfortable. You have to start by talking about yourselves and where you were before you had the solution you have now. You are best suited to serve the person that you were before you figured out what the hell was going on in your life that you didn't like, or whatever that bit of tension was that made you feel ready to scrape the scab off, let that puppy heal, and get started in a new direction. So for me, starting this podcast, I was very well known in Philadelphia for being a rather cutthroat publicist. I was very adamant in getting the best for my clients and not really allowing the media to bully us around. And it gained me a reputation. It's a reputation that I have since very much severed myself from, because although it was professional, it was very Hollywood, and my clients were in the entertainment industry. It wasn't real life, and I wasn't helping anyone. I was only making someone wealthier, and those individuals were not helping anyone either. It made me sick. It made me want to move home so I could reevaluate who I actually am. The city and its fun had left. We were ready to figure out who we really were inside. I'm 39 years old. I'm approaching a place where it just doesn't feel right for me to be wasting my time on things for monetary returns. I want to make a difference. I want to make an impact. The easiest way for me to do that was to call a bluff on what my life was before and tell everyone about how unhappy I was. Sure, you're a Philly PR socialite. Whoop-de-doo. I lay my head down at bed at night and I'm miserable. I feel rotten inside because I'm helping people that don't deserve it. And there are a lot of people that don't deserve it. But oftentimes, looking inside of yourself and recognizing where that wound is, to where you're like, ooh, let me tuck that away for a little bit later, is only going to come and bite you in the butt at another date, which it did for me. I moved home. I took on a ton of work that was still in Philly that I thought I'll be better. I'm working in Cape May, hearing seagulls staring at the bay. It was still terrible because I wasn't listening to my heart's calling, and my heart's calling was wanting to help people with 362 Instagram followers get in front of an audience with someone educated enough on their business and their brand to be able to pull out the little nooks and crannies of what they do so my listeners could hear what they were doing. And if it was for them, they were going to start following them. They're going to pick up the sale that we were offering in the show notes. They were going to listen to that episode time and time again because it touched something in them that they're not able to find anywhere else. Most of the comments I get are about the breadth of different clients and different people and businesses and authors that I am showcasing on my show. What's the through line? They all got sick of this pedestal life they had worked themselves up to, and they knew it was no longer for them. And I didn't even know this when I chose them and I DM'd them to ask if they would come on my show. What I did see visually was them living their life out loud. They were being authentic. There was a part of them that was shining through enough to where I was like, oh, we would be friends in real life. You're cool. Let me see what you're up to. Lo and behold, I'm having conversations. I'm talking in the interview. And then I'm like, holy shit, you lost your dad 2 years ago. Wait a second. Was that what made you leave accounting? And then you decided you were going to move home to your parents' house that was now going to have to go up for sale because your mother couldn't afford the mortgage by herself? And then you came home and got thrusted into having to take care of an adult parent, all while remortgaging your home, getting the roof replaced. You're starting up again because you were both entrepreneurs before you moved down here. My God. Wow. Can we pause our conversation about your business and talk a little bit about that? Let's get to that, because there are more people listening right now that are in a space where they feel empty inside, or something is just not firing. The cogs in the wheel are not cogging. Something is leaving you wanting more. And I guarantee you, within all of your niches, there's a real human core there. For strategy in any regard, you have to think about the emotion attached to the person and what you're ultimately wanting from them. I want people to listen to my show and be invigorated and inspired to do the thing that everyone around them told them was stupid. I want to be everyone's cheerleader. I want them to know that the journal that you're printing and making is fucking awesome. There's absolutely no reason whatsoever for there to be any hate attached to anything you're doing, because you're doing it to make the world a better place. And you can be that for someone within your niche as well. By just being a kind friend on a speaker, recording what you're talking about, you have no idea the amount of people you are reaching. I'm in 42 countries. Most of them don't speak English as a primary language. Most of my listeners are 60 plus. Did I think that? No. Is my Instagram 60 plus? No, it is not. But they like what I'm talking about. They're interested in the things that I'm speaking about. And because I do have so much experience with entrepreneurs, a lot of my episodes are peppering in how to PR yourself, how to write a press release. So, of course, they're getting that aspect. But I know that I am attracting people because I'm offering conversations they are never going to find on the internet, let alone in their real life, unless they are near a support group that is similar to them. So, thinking about your essential start of the podcast, I want you to think about the person that you were 2 years ago, and ultimately the crew of friends that you had around you or that you wish you would have had around you that would have led you to feel a little bit more comfortable in like taking this leap and jumping and doing this new thing. Does anyone have any questions on strategy before we move on very briefly to tech? No? Okay. So for tech, I'm going to spin this around and show you very easily what I use. It's a free system. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So I grappled with this for myself for a really long time. Okay. Let me first say what I think. I think it's better for most normal individuals like us to start slow and low and get that really like apple pie following of people that are just like, oh my God, I love what you're doing every day. I love what you're doing. Like I have people like that. I will literally wake up and I'll be like, let me go see what she's doing right now. Like I really care, which is an odd thing to say for a stranger on the internet I've never met. But in the interim of me trying to get my podcast off the ground and get more followers, I realized I was focusing a little bit too much on metrics that don't really equate to listenership and listener time. So if we're asking specifically about building on social media, you do have a lot of options to build quickly, which typically revolve or some type of pay to play situation, or somehow you've gone viral to get a lot of eyeballs. I like to do a little bit of a mishmash, and I would rather do crossovers with audiences or networks that are similar to the types of people I'm trying to bring to attention to my show. So maybe I would do like an Instagram live with someone whom I admire and I like what they're putting out there. Or for you is like all media and digital. Like maybe I want to have a conversation with another professional and we're just strictly talking about the creative process and why we like being able to be in a space to capture people's businesses and really bring to life what it is that they're offering to help their business market themselves in a much more easy and authentic way that's way more immersive because you're so professional and you have all this equipment. Would then maybe lead you to have a soundbite that you can send out to those 60 followers, and maybe they're hyper local to you, but now they're hearing, you know what, I met with him before and I heard that dollar amount and I thought about really just trying to work it into my budget, but I didn't understand what I was getting. I didn't understand what I was contracting when working with a professional of your caliber. But maybe they need to hear the mechanisms about why you do what you do, why you're choosing to bring in the set of lights, because maybe people on TikTok and Instagram are responding better to walking into a restaurant that's well lit and they're seeing the panning and we know that you use a gimbal. And like there gives almost a branding check mark of you not only proving the quality of your work, but the reasoning for what you're charging. And I think that has been a really big thing that I've always recommended for not only people that are my clients, but in general, if you're able to kind of dangle a carrot in front of that small audience that's packed with value, that's giving them all the information they would have almost paid you for to receive, you're building that like, no trust factor. You're giving them the ability to be like, wow, he didn't have to say all of that, or he didn't have to give up that like behind the scenes, like look at it, or he didn't need to, offer that discount he did in that episode. But you're now giving them the ability to see you as a real person. You're connecting with them in a way that not only makes sense for them, but is giving them almost that like little like birdie in the ear of like, you know what? I can do it. I'm going to swing it. We're going to schedule with him. I'm moving forward. I wish I would have done this sooner. I need a little bit more context around what it was that we were getting from you besides a video and a photo. Now, that kind of interaction, analytics wise, is really only going to happen with a smaller account or an account that's larger and gone viral. I've gone viral twice, and both times it completely wrecked my account for about 6 months. And the second time it was about 8 months. I would never recommend it. If it happens, I would delete it immediately, like delete the reel. It changed the analytics of my account because it was a horseshoe crab video and how to flip them over in the summertime. And my Instagram account is mainly about like living your life, going for the things that like make your heart like light up on fire. So I started getting all these environmental accounts. I was getting like little kids that love weird animals. I was getting like, it was just skewing me in such a way that it took so long to bring it back on home to what my focus was, that the second time I went viral, I deleted it after 2 weeks because I realized what was happening. The first time I thought I knew. The second time I saw, and I was like, oh, this is a nightmare. Like, how on earth do you keep the analytics dialed into what you're actually talking about if you're getting 52 million hits on a horseshoe crab video and everyone commenting on it is going, Pikachu, 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 like all these weird, like they look like a cartoon face hugger. Then I'm getting alien comments, and then it's like, ew, you touched it. Oh, white girls touch everything. It's like the comments were just like, the funniest thing ever. But it didn't help me sell my PR course. It brought no listeners to my podcast. And every single video after that was used to getting 1,500, 2,000 was getting 200, 75. And it was my core 75 friends that are like looking at my crap all day long. So only because of the virality and the experience I had with it, and a few clients have had with it, I don't like the big bang of numbers. I don't think it translates to them caring about you as an individual. And I know that for me to buy from you, I got to care about you, or at least care a little bit about what you're doing. Does that answer? Small, slow and low like eggs. Slow and low like eggs. And honestly, yes, it's bad. But I'll tell you, I put up one story. I put up a story the other day. It was about, I find myself on a faith journey these days. Didn't grow up religious. I find myself on a faith journey these days. I did not grow up religious. I'm asking random questions out to the internet, like, well, what's your favorite book about Jesus? Do you have anything you want to like send my way? That one story got 42 DMs from people just saying, oh, wow, I'm on one too. Can you put this up as a story and share it? Because I want to see what people are going to recommend. What did I do? I was asking about something for myself. I was asking for help from myself. And that got me more positive engagement that for the last, when did I put that up? 2 days ago. For the last 2 days, my stories are getting 1,100 views. That's not typical for me. That shot me out into somewhere to where people that don't look at my account normally are looking at it. I don't want to weigh too much on Instagram, because if you're going to be podcasting or creating long form content, hands down, it must be on YouTube. Hands down, it must be on Spotify. No, you're fine. Yep. And you can, I'll say this, for longer than 3 minutes, people like horizontal. But the beauty of YouTube now is they've added shorts. So you have the ability to just dump everything there, and it's going to appropriate for you where it needs to go based on like what it is that you're putting up. I will say I have had, outside of focusing on all the direct metrics for each platform, because there are so many, the ones that I would tell you to focus on as a beginner, because they connect to so many other things, are YouTube and Spotify. Spotify just allowed you to start uploading video. So that could be a 5-minute video. You could even do a 5-minute podcast about like, maybe you want to talk about like a design that you just did and you only want it to be 5 minutes long. That would be a beautiful place to pop that up. YouTube also has YouTube Music. So when you're putting it up for your podcast, you're also able to put it up on YouTube Music, which is their equivalent of like Spotify. When you're posting to Spotify, you're able to put a 60-second reel up as an advertisement for your podcast that will shoot out on Spotify. If you ever find yourself like farting around on there, there's a ton of reels these days. So they've just given that ability to podcasters. So every time I post up an episode now, I'm able to include a reel. That has gotten a ton of views and a ton of listens for my podcast just because I'm offering that extra bit of media that is still new to the climate. I like Apple, but they really don't like working with everyone else. And for me, I'm all about efficiency. So they kind of sit on my back burner. And to be honest, I don't post there because they don't make it easy for me to just swoop like everyone else does. It's incredibly difficult. They rely almost entirely upon ads. If not ads, they're relying on production houses. So there are certain production houses that are taking all of the ex-journalists, old celebrities. Yes. And you have to be very careful because the larger you get, the more there is an agenda that is being, not to get conspiracy on you, it's just PR. And what PR is, PR was invented by Sigmund Freud specifically for propaganda and then became what it is now. So again, why it's best for you to be in front of your own mic and your own camera. You don't need to rely on anyone for anything because you are the product. You are the thing that people are coming to listen to time and time again. Yeah. It's tricky. I'll say this. I'm only going to very briefly state that you will 1000% need a trademark lawyer if you desire to take this anywhere far, or if the thought of someone contacting you in the future and saying cease and desist using my name and my branding, because I have a similar name and branding. I'll say this. There was a woman that started a podcast called Make Life Rich about 6 years ago. She only posted on Apple. She did 3 episodes. I had Make Life Rich Movement as a networking group that I created in Philly before I left. And I was like, no, I like this. I have the website for it. I'm just going to stick with it. I love this. I hired a little trademark lawyer and she notified me that there's a lot of ways this could go. If the person finds my podcast and decides to be, difficult, she could make it difficult for me. So don't put yourself in the position I'm in. And no. So she had it first, but there's a lot of gray area. So that's where it's kind of like you want it to be as unique to you as possible. That's why a lot of people use their name. That's why you could just call it the Co-Collective Podcast, because you would want it to tie back to something like with Robin. Robin and I have been, we'll talk about that. I saw that earlier. It's okay. There's a person you can talk to. Like your name I'm not by any means a trademark expert. However, if this is something you want to take seriously, it's something worth looking into. You could do a very quick skip trace. There's government websites to see who has what. And that's a great place to start. I started by going to all the podcasting platforms, typed it in. Okay, no. Oh, they haven't posted in 3 years. Great. Went over to Instagram. Don't see anything. Twitter. I covered all my bases. Typed in a website. There's nothing there. Okay. But when you're coming up with a name, let's just stick with that topic because it is really important. You have to be 100% on whatever you want to call it because a name is not something you can change. I myself have unfollowed shows that have changed their name simply because that means to me they weren't ready to start when they started. And I don't want to continue on this journey with you while you're growing. I'm showing up here to gain the information you're giving me because you're an expert and you're serious about this and this is what you're here to do. Now, that's not to say you can't be making long form content that you're utilizing to sell your products or you're using to give people a better understanding about what your services are, what you're doing. But you can still utilize these platforms to be able to share that long form content. And I think as time continues on, we are going to see a lot more people just posting long form content on Spotify. That would be something they could do in an Instagram live. We're already seeing that now. So, and with the banning of TikTok, there's a lot of change. You have to use Spotify Creators. That's their editing platform. So what I use to record is something called Riverside. They have a free option. It gives you 5 hours of recording for 2 tracks. So you could do however many interviews for 2 people or have 5 hours of yourself. It records audio and video, gives you individual audio tracks, gives you so many options. It's very user friendly. So they were purchased by Spotify within the last 6 months, and they are now the primary editing platform for Spotify. So they will first instruct you to join Riverside, upload whatever it is that you want to put in there. It gives you the ability to do captions. You can embed links for video. It's very user friendly. It's like Canva for video in essence. And then from there, it allows you to automatically upload it to YouTube, automatically upload it to Spotify as a video. Now, whatever you choose to put up there is on you. You will have to create a creator's account for Spotify, but it would be under your brand name. You have to do it through your Spotify account. So if you have it hooked up to your Facebook, it's going to all need to be connected. So there's a little connection situation there. But Riverside and Spotify worked hand in hand also with YouTube. So even just as a creator and wanting to get things out there about your business, that would be where I start. Now, for equipment, as I said, you really don't need a lot. Yeah, yep. And then it goes into your show notes. What are you putting in the show notes? They're very specific about cursing. No curses. We'll talk about that. I have the mouth of a sailor, okay? Everywhere. Everywhere. There's no longer tolerance for cursing. 100%. Do you think so on YouTube? YouTube's where I get away with it. Yeah, yeah, yeah. It didn't get doxxed? Oh, wow. Okay. I don't know. Like, I love the F word, so that's like my go-to. I don't know. Shit's okay. Shit's okay. Like, they don't want like C word, F word, like argumentative, nasty cursing, I guess is the line. I've been shadow banned a ton on YouTube, not so much on Spotify, but I do know that they will, in essence, deplatform your episode if you go over the threshold of curse words on Spotify. So they're very particular about that. That came in about 4 years ago when they brought Joe Rogan on. Yes. Yeah. Into your body. You do have to be mindful of what you bring up. A good point. I don't want you to censor yourself. I don't want to censor what it is that you're about. We become such a divided nation. It sickens me because guess what? It's all propaganda. So we'll leave that right there and there, right there. Talk about what you want to talk about. Did your kid shit themselves today up the back diaper style? And you're like, I just got my coffee poured. We have to get in the car. I have to go take the dog here. Talk about it. Another mom that's on the other end, like, is going to be like, ha, girl, I just had a shit up the back the other day. We were in church, got all over the pew. And then I didn't realize because, I'm just putting the coat of my kid to get her in the car. And then there's shit all over the seat. And then the dog stepped in it. And I got like, you need to give people room to see the ugly, the dirty, the stuff that gets like kept from being seen. That's what makes you real. And the SEO factor, your title and the show notes that you place within your original setup for the podcast are all you have. What you're putting into the show notes, each episode needs to be specific to the episode. There's so much that goes into SEO, and any YouTube video you can find about it for YouTube specifically, just break it down for me like I'm 5, SEO for YouTube. It's going to give you, I'm on the board. Like 2BO, I like vidIQ too. I would use it originally for captions, but then Riverside started offering captions, so I quit using them. Riverside, it's cool. Everyone uses it. Like any podcast you can think of, they now record with us. Okay, as far as equipment goes, this is a rather expensive microphone. My husband makes music. This is why I have this. If he didn't make music, I'd have a $30 microphone that you all have from COVID, okay? Second to that, if you want to get fancy, you can buy one of these little cameras. This puppy was $76 at Staples in Courthouse. It gives me 4K video. It's beautiful on YouTube. I have some cheap ass lights. Those guys right there, they're $25 a piece. The light bulbs were $5. I put them here. I flank myself at my desk. I put my desk behind me. I place this in front of me. This records the video. This records the audio. And I talk. That's all it takes. Do you have a computer? I got it at Staples. Literally, it just goes up to 4K. There are ones that go up to 12K. They could all definitely tell you more about that than me. But a cheap, you probably have one from COVID times. Oh, I'll put a big link for these. I got these on Amazon. They're 25 a piece. Okay. I think that's fine. I think it's a great place to start. I only started adding video a year ago. If you feel comfortable starting with video, go for the gold. But I will encourage you to play around with Riverside. And when I'm done, you can all come up and look at it and I'll show you. It's so simple. It's stupid. Caitlin was a guest on my show. She logged in from her house. We did it separate from each other. Came out great. They give you so many audio controls. It's like having a producer in your pocket. It's really nice. And okay, this is where I'm going to invite this gentleman to tell you things. It's very loud. Take your phone, keep it 6 inches away from your mouth, and be in your closet. I don't think it's a detriment for just audio. Audible takes podcasts. There's so many platforms. And then you have to think about like, who's your demographic? that could take a little bit into it, but I didn't start doing audios until last December. I only started doing them because Riverside made it so easy to do that I was like, why not? It took more effort for me to be like, what's my background going to look like? Where do I put this? And like, I don't have children. I have a whole office to myself. So I made my desk in the background. I put my tchotchkes up how I like it. It's just, and people comment like, I love being able to see where you actually work. Like, what does that little like picture say in the background? What's that phrase? Like, they like seeing the behind the scenes of it. But if you do want to do video, and the two of you are sitting here, if you place this computer far enough away, very simply, this is a good little camera. Like, I've sat it and had someone here and here, and like, it's just old school, shooting it from the front. Yeah. And any laptop these days outside of a Mac, you've got multiple ports. Like, I plug this puppy up. Like, there's all this shit going into it. But okay, yes. Be careful with that though. You have to check your storage every single time you record because it'll cut you off. Yeah. All right. So the biggest thing I want to cover before we leave today for any of you, because this is really where the meat and potatoes are at. What is your show format? How many days a week are you going to be posting? How many days a month? Is it going to be video? Is it going to be audio and video? Are you going to have different topic segments? My show's 3 times a week. That's a lot. It's okay if you want to do once a month. It's okay if you want to do once every other week. I'm doing 3 a week because I want this to be my profession. I'm putting out 2 interviews on Tuesdays and Thursdays with a guest. And on Sunday, I have something called Sunday Strategy Sessions, where I talk to people about business or I give them something to work on for the week ahead so they can move their business or their life forward 1%. It's literally what I say. I literally start the show on a Sunday and I say, hey guys, this is Sara from the Make Life Rich Movement podcast. Thank you so much for joining me on this Sunday strategy session. Today, we are going to be focusing on how you can move your life ahead 1% this week by focusing on your self-worth. Here's a little exercise we're going to work on today for our self-worth. 1, so that's Sundays. During the week, they're getting to know real Sara. They're seeing the weed stickers on my iPad. They're hearing me chit chat with a lady about, oh man, like, sorry you didn't get that Taylor Swift ticket for your niece. That really sucks. Like, it's all over the place, but it's authentic because we're 2 people coming together that are agreeing to talk about the things that light them up inside and how they're helping people because of it. So you want to think about hooks. What hooks can you start your show off with every single time? I could name 55 people right now that no matter what, when they turn on that mic, you could say verbatim what they're going to say back to you. It feels hokey. It feels like, well, I'm not a news reporter or a radio journalist. You freaking are now, so own it. Sit in front of that mic, boom your voice out. You're going to have to do it a few times. It took me a week to get my blurbs down for each episode. And when I'm interviewing, it's the same exact spiel every time. Hello and welcome to the Make Life Rich Movement podcast. My name is Sara. I'm so thankful for you joining me today. Today's guest is Caitlin. Caitlin is from Human Design and she blah, 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 blah. Thank you so much, Caitlin, for joining me today. Thank you. You're not going to mess up. You're going to be a pro. And here's where you can't think about it too much because at the end of the day, something like an intro can be re-recorded in post. You want to come in and have it be fun. This can't be perfect because nothing in life is perfect except right angles. No. But that's my particular skill in life, okay? You can. I scripted this because I want to make sure I didn't miss anything. You can. There are a ton of, and Riverside may actually have that function and I just don't use it. Yes. But there's so many teleprompter apps. If you like that, go for the gold. I think it's perfect. And there are styles. Like I was literally born to talk. I could talk for the rest of my life. It just flows out of my mouth. But I really, really, really love listening to podcasts where I can tell that someone has bullet point by bullet point. And that's where I'm getting like the masters about whatever they're going to talk about. I'm giving a lot of like, love you, haha, cheerleader. If I'm listening to a podcast and I can tell they have notes, I'm like, I'm going to learn something today. Like, let me start typing. So do whatever feels best. So let's talk specifically about the show format. You want to plan a hook within the first 30 seconds. Don't kill yourself over it. If you feel like you really need help creatively, go to Claude AI, Chat GPT. Claude.ai or Chat GPT. These are just AI tools that are there for you to utilize. If you have Canva, you can also do it in Canva. It's everywhere. Come up with a good attention grabbing hook. After that, you want to make sure that you're balancing promotional content with informational content. If you are going to have ads, unless you're making 40% off of a sale for an affiliate link, or it is very integral to whatever it is you're talking about, unless it's your product, it's a freaking no. You're not going to sound more professional because you have commercials for BetterHelp or freaking feed me meals. Like everyone hears them ad nauseum. Do you know how quick I run to pick up my phone no matter what I'm doing through an ad? I don't want to hear it. But if it were Robin selling her journal, or it were you selling your services, or it were you advertising a huge event you have coming up, or it were you talking about why colonoscopies are important, I'm going to listen. That's you talking about the thing that you do. I already like you anyway. For me, I have 3 commercials. One is promoting my husband's business because he made my theme song. He does all my editing. I'm promoting my course. I have a strategy course to help people like PR themselves. And then I am promoting, I have like a Hertz track where I just put like mindset talk into the Hertz track. And I promote people just listening to the Hertz track on YouTube. If you have too many ads that have nothing to do with you and you think it's going to just like, ooh, she must be big to have a brand. The view is really the other way now. It's become too accessible to get these advertisements to where they've lost their value. They cheapen the information you're delivering, and they also make you look like a sellout. It's a harsh thing to hear and say, but if you find yourself not having a readily saleable product, this is a really great opportunity for you to think a little bit about what you're going to be talking about on this show and what are you funneling it down to so that they're coming to you for this or they want to hire you for that. That was a big thing for me that I really didn't start integrating. And to be honest, I may not, because I want to be podcasting when I'm 92 years old. I'm taking Barbara Walters route on this. Like, this is what I'm going for. If I were just utilizing this to be able to sell my business, you best be sure that I'm going to be making my podcast sound like the coolest thing that has ever happened, because all I'm doing is talking about all the people I've helped. So maybe that's you bringing on people that you've helped get their mortgage, or maybe they had a really tricky mortgage situation. You were able to get them through it because it's like nothing for you. And all we can hear is their gratitude. And it was such a difficult time to go through. And her information was paramount in me being able to get my family's life back together and get our home back in our name. Blah, blah, blah. Or maybe like someone's like, we had a really beautiful end of life celebration that we couldn't have put together ourselves because we were too distraught. And we were so blessed for Tori to come in and help us when she did. And we were just really thankful that someone could put together our vision for us in such a terrible time. And now we look back on that with fondness because it was a beautiful life celebration that he really would have enjoyed if he could have been there. I'm hiring you immediately. Make your content and the pieces that you're integrating into it, keep subtly reminding people why you're there. We're not here to flap our gums. You can do that with your friends, or you can do that on a live. But the effort that it will take to do this, it's worth it, but you have to have a pipeline that makes sense. So what are you selling? What are you getting from this scenario? Developing a system for ongoing content ideas. Again, Chat GPT. Give it a really beautiful, what are you looking to do? Looking to highlight our women's co-working event group that we have. And, we have 3 different events that we typically do a month. We've got coffee events on Mondays, this, that, and that. We want to encourage more women to dive headfirst into their dreams and make the life of their choosing a reality. And we're going to assist them in that by supporting them with events where they're learning and furthering education and giving them opportunities to meet people they normally wouldn't have. ChatGPT is going to whip out 15 episodes. I want it to be, it's amazing. And Claude.ai is more for writers and creatives. ChatGPT, you could ask it to give you algebra homework. Claude AI is for creatives. So the algorithm question, they're never going to tell you what their algorithm is, but there certainly is one. I will say I've had a number of instances where my guest cancels. And because my husband's my editor, I can record someone the day before and have the episode up the next day. So they've canceled and I don't have a guest. I made it too close to myself. I'm not posting an episode. I wouldn't see a dip right away, but I could see a dip maybe 2 or 3 episodes after that where it's gone down a few listeners. However, Spotify is like Netflix. They're not going to tell you. They're not going to give you the grand scheme of things for you to know where to place yourself in, the thrill of it all. But you will be able to see how many people listened. They're not giving you the exact amount of data that's a platform like YouTube would give you. YouTube, I can see down to the second when someone left and be like, wait, 4 people left then. Why? Go look at it. Oh, okay. I'll fix that next time. Like, YouTube is going to give you more malleability with the data for you to be able to play around a bit. And in the beginning, it's all going to be A/B testing. Test stuff out. As long as you're keeping the core content the same, the delivery of it can be different. Maybe you don't want it to be an episode once a week with a ton of different segments. Like, maybe you want it to be different every week. That's okay. But posting on the same time every week is something that I can see being beneficial to the algorithm, but they've made no, like, do you know anything about? No, for Spotify. Yeah, they're pretty secretive about it. So I think ultimately, if you plan yourself ahead appropriately, you can have some emergency episodes that you keep in the wings. I now, because of learning over time, that like, oh, somebody might like bail on me and like, then like life happens for me, or I have clients. Like, I still have a job that I'm doing every day for like client work. I've planned far enough ahead and kept emergency episodes in the wings so that doesn't happen to me again. However, as far as planning, I can't really plan my guests too far in advance. For me, I like to try and plan a quarter ahead because I am interviewing 2 people a week, 8 people a month. That's a considerable amount of people over a year. And I want to make sure that for me, because I'm interviewing people, I don't want to be interviewing 2 hairstylists within a month. I don't want to be interviewing someone too close. I want to give everyone their room to be seen and to share their story. So I will try not to repeat a topic too closely within a quarter, so that I'm giving a quarter for that episode to get seen. And every single one of my episodes are still acquiring views and listens. I have 200 it'll be 45 this weekend, 245 episodes. Every single one of them gets listened. And it seems to start with my most recent, and they like me, so they go through every single one. So whatever you're putting up over time, it is a really long game. But as he had a video with over 1 million views, that took time. But that one piece of content took you what, 10 minutes, 15 minutes to put up? And yeah, like whatever time you put into it. Okay, so it took you a month. I'm sorry, I don't know what you put up there, but it took him a month, but he's still getting residual views. It's still drawing attention to him and his business and what the point of that video was. So for my Sunday episodes, because it's just me, I've scheduled out the entire year. And because I'm kind of switching up my Sunday episodes, I'm starting to use notes for them because I am sharing a lot of information around stuff that I'm learning. And I want people to be able to hear the actual way that I've read it, and then I'm giving them my interpretation of something, or I'm giving my anecdote to like what that meant to me when I read it, or how this changed my business because I'm bringing this in now. I think there's a really big learning curve for having interviews and guests. Is there anyone feeling like they're going to have guests? I know you're going to have guests. You'll have guests. You're definitely having guests. Will you guys have guests? If you're going to have guests, there's a bedside manner that's important. But mainly you want to make sure that the process of you booking them from the first time you reach out till the moment that they're coming on your show is very smooth. So I'm utilizing within Riverside, it allows me to attach to my Google Calendar. So I'm scheduling out once we've agreed upon when we're going to record. I put that into Riverside. I schedule it. It sends them a Google Calendar invite. It has the link for us to record. I've pre-programmed in the settings some notes. Make sure you're wearing your favorite outfit that makes you feel great. Make sure there's nothing in the background that has too many weird patterns or lines. Make sure you're sitting yourself 1.5 feet away from the screen. So we've got a really great barrier for your Instagram reel that will come from this. So I'm directing them how I want them to show up, to behave on the show, by laying down all the first steps that they're getting before they get to know who I even am. So that's really important. I always give interview questions ahead of time if they ask for them. I don't offer this because I like things to be off the cuff. I could talk for 24 years. I don't want it to be, okay, next question. Okay, next question. But for those that are nervous, which most people will be because most normal people have never been interviewed nor on a podcast, you piece together the overall gist of what you want the conversation to be like between the two of you. They get to prepare themselves a little bit. It's like, oh, you just want me to talk about my dog grooming business? Oh, okay, I could do that all day. All right, yay, it's going to be fun. Let me go figure out what I'm going to wear. That's typically how the conversation goes. giving the questions. I keep this iPad in front of me with the questions laid out. If I don't know the person or their business or their topic well enough that I could just riff it, I will have pre-prepared. This is set in front of my computer. It doesn't show up on the recording at all, and I'm just glancing down, keeping a look. Another thing to be mindful of, which it took me a long time to get the gist of, and we all learned this in COVID with Zoom. You're looking at the camera. You're not looking at the person. Looking at the camera is going to make your beautiful little eyeballs be seductively staring into the reel that I post after I've interviewed you for people to go, oh, eyeballs. We're wired to look at an eyeball. So make sure you tell them, look at that camera in your computer. Don't look at my beautiful face. Anybody have any questions about that? Go. I love a release form. I've had a couple of people get spicy because they didn't like what they said afterwards, and I offered to edit it out, and they were still spicy about it. So I just scrapped that shit and threw it in the trash because I don't play games like that. However, you can keep a release. I would give it to everyone just to let them know at the beginning that you are serious about what you're doing, and you're going to take great care and respect with the conversation that you're giving them, and you expect them in return to give you great respect for the conversation you're having. However, in supplying a few people with releases, it's made it too formal to where it's too serious for them, and now they don't want to come on. So you really have to play. Them showing up to your computer to record with their own will is basically them omitting any ability to. But again, I'm not a lawyer. You need a lawyer to ask these questions for. A good Claude AI lawyer-based question will give you a good lawyer-based answer. But again, that's something you're going to have to look into with a professional. I don't like ChatGPT. I find their information to be very based and very biased. Again, I like Claude AI because it's made for content creators. I'm not a scientist. I don't need to worry about all that crap. I just want you to help me make like a better sales pitch. Yeah. LegalZoom has one too. Yep. And you could you could type video release on Instagram, and any like lawyer that has their own like suite of products, you could probably buy one from for like $200. But releases are important. They are important. However, as I stated, there is a little bit of a gray area. I've had people not want to be on it, and then I've had people be on it, and once they heard a release was in play, came a different conversation. It has nothing to do with that. It's you're adding an air of pressure by making it professional by providing a legal document. How would you feel if we showed up to a coffee shop and I say, here, before we get started today with a convo, do you want to sign this? Right. So I think you got to really play. You gotta play authentic. You gotta be real. Okay, we're taking a while here. Let me zip through it. All right, brand voice and presentation we really covered in the strategy section. I kind of lumped those together. Overall, though, your unique voice is going to come through. It's going to take time, so don't really bully yourself about how you sound or what you say for at least the first 6 months. If you don't believe me, go all the way to the bottom of my show and start at episode 1, and I give you permission to giggle at how ridiculous it sounds at times. But where I am now, I sound like a professional. I've been approached by networks. I tell them I'm in charge of this microphone and I'm in charge of this video camera. Okay. Outside from that, audio production, if you're going to utilize any kind of AI-based service like Riverside, they make it super, super easy for you. They give you a ton of tech videos to utilize on their platform. Devour all of that before you go to Google to figure out style. You need to know how to use the platform first before you care to make it fancy, okay? So just devour what you can from the website before heading into a different direction of like going to YouTube. It's just too big of a rabbit hole, and it's not really going to help you too much. For monetization, I'm going to take it back to you having your own product. There is no money to be had in streaming views. Actual artists, Usher, making no money on Spotify, y'all. So let's remember right here, right now, podcasting is not a way to make money. The physical recording and the physical viewing are making me squat. I won't make anything for views and listening until I've got a certain amount of recording hours on YouTube, which is 4,000. So people had to have watched 4,000 hours of my material before I can get any kind of monetization. So I will say there's down the road monetization in YouTube, but nowhere else from the platform views. You could monetize, yes, with sponsors. It would have to be very specifically built into your show like yours is. Otherwise, you're then just having an ad, and it's just another ad. But there is a really interesting loophole with starting off the episode by saying, hey guys, so excited to be talking to you today. We are sponsored by Mudhen. Mudhen is the beautiful blah, 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 blah. Thank you so much to our sponsors for making this episode possible. Today, bop, bop, bop. Like, you can present it in that manner, and the way that you're looking to do it is the proper way to do it. Outside of a sponsor being like, Pfizer, BetterHelp. It's like, no one wants that. Like, no one wants to know who you're in bed with or what pockets you're filling. But like, your way of going about it is exposing them to new brands. It's something they're already interested in because they're coming to you and they know that's a portion of your show. That's a segment you've branded and put in there. You're introducing them to other brands that you like. So you're doing it in an authentic way. You're not just like Budweiser. Like, you know, like it has to feel like you and be who you really are. Yes. You can put links for everything in the show notes. At the end of this, when we're done, I'll just open up my Spotify and you can look at my show notes. You can make them as long and as detailed as you want. Remember, it's SEO. So you want it to be brisk and you want it to have, people do, but like, you know, some people read that. I try to read it because I know someone like me is on the other end writing it, but it's not, you have to remember how people live and how they're very acutely trying to include what you're doing into the way they live. So you want to make it absorbable. Like, how quickly can I take in what you're telling me? Growth and sustainability, plan out a quarter. Give yourself a quarter. Don't quit until you've completed a quarter. So if you say you're going to do an episode a week, you're doing an episode a week for a quarter. And then you step back and maybe you go on a little bit of a like, oh, guys, we just ended our first season. There's going to be 4 seasons this year, 1 a quarter. I'm going to take in a week off. I'm going to reprioritize some things and we're going to be back for round 2. I can't tell you how many podcasts I've listened to like that. They're not changing it episode to episode. They're giving a quarter for not only themselves to digest it, but for their listeners to grow used to what they're doing. And then they're hearing from them like, oh my God, it's so funny when you do that segment of like crank calling. It reminds me of like 1992, You're the Best. Can you put more of that in? Sure, we're going to make sure we keep the crank calls in for like season 2. Or it's like, dude, it's so boring when you just read the back of the book flap when you're giving me a book review. If you're going to say what book you like, can you at least tell me why you like it? Like, I can read the back of a fucking book. Like, don't waste my time here. So you're getting feedback within that quarter as well, but there's no sustainability without you doing it every day. Like, if you're not posting every day, you're working on it every day. If you want to start this is a really viable marketing tool for your business. And it's getting you in front of an audience that is overall absolutely freaking sick of social media. They're absolutely freaking sick of Amazon. Everything that we use every single day, they're tired of, and they're searching for a new voice. They're searching for a new opinion. They want freshness. And if they come to find you, and then, you know, in the way that the analytics may not be negatively affected if you're not posting every Tuesday when you say you're going to post, you may lose a listener because they came to really love hearing you on Tuesdays. And because you weren't there one Tuesday, you ruined their whole freaking day. And now they're on to another podcast. So there is a lot to think there. But ultimately, once you've decided this is what you want to do, you have to show up. You have to give yourself the grace to know that it's going to be difficult because it's new. All new things are difficult. And you have to give yourself the understanding that like you believing in yourself and even thinking you want to do this for a second was all you needed to decide. Like any other thing you've done, like what did it take for you to decide you're going to start your business? This is the same thing. This is just another vein of what you're doing. Or maybe it's not connected to your business at all and you want to start a new like journey for yourself. Either way, you have to be consistent. It has to be something that is just continuing through. I will say I am not going to be one of those people that tells you there's too many podcasts out there, because podcasts are more trusted even by a normal regular woman in Cape May County than most major media platforms. So remember that. TV, they're getting about 500,000 to 750,000 views a night. 50,000 views a night. He has over 1 million on a video on YouTube. Think about the reach. It's not out of any realm of possibility for you to put a video up and 5 years from now, you have 1 million views. You have those 4,000 listening hours. And now this thing you put time and effort into is giving you money back. And now it's trusted you and you've put in enough into it that it knows who to shoot you out to. And maybe now you've built it up to a place where you're like, okay, I feel confident spending marketing money on this, advertising dollars on this, because I've proved to myself that I can do it and that I want to continue to do it. I've found my community. They like what I'm putting down. They want to pick up more. I'm ready to grow now with PR, marketing, advertising. But none of that should even be a thought in your little brain until you have literally put yourself out there and down on the microphone for 4 months. It's a journey for you before it becomes an outward marketing journey for anybody else. So if they don't attach to who you are in the very beginning when you get started, you're putting the cart before the horse to worry about anything other than what you're going to call it, what you're going to talk about, how frequently is it going to happen, and like, why am I doing this? That's probably the biggest thing. And I probably should have started there. But what is your why? What are you trying to get out of this? For me, for my show, I'm trying to encourage people that would otherwise be told no, or that's a stupid idea, by someone close to them or an authority figure. I want to be the yes. So I'm making content that makes people feel like they can do it too. I'm making aspirational content that's also inspirational. And that's something that you're already doing by living your life, by running your businesses. You're being aspirational and inspirational for those around you that are paying attention. This is just a medium to spread it out to find more of those cool gals that are obsessed with you. And you could totally do it. I've been seeing your face this whole time. You're dialed in. Robin's going to tell all of us you had a show soon. Okay, does anybody have any further questions? Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank you. I'm sorry that was a big old ramble. This will be recorded and I'll shoot the link out to Robin so you can all have access to it. Yes, every time. Yep, every time. And honestly, does anyone in here use Flowdesk? Flowdesk is the Canva of email marketing. Do you use Canva? Flowdesk is the Canva of email marketing. Huh? I know. If you can get Flowdesk and build out a nice little sales funnel and you're just giving them the only link in your show notes is to opt into your email funnel. And then from there, they're going through all of the emails that you set up to get to know you and your podcast. Here's some of the guests you might not have heard that you might want to check out. We have this event coming up. The next email after that, hey, I have a journal. Or, hey, I offer one-on-one services for me to be able to help you with your finances or help you figure out how you want to plan your daughter's graduation party. Like, you can build out all the marketing you could ever need, but it starts with your mouth. And building those funnels and those systems are certainly important, but I mean, you would put them in there immediately because you already have these things up and running. So you'd build them into what you're doing. But if you don't already have email marketing set up for this, again, just wait the 4 months. Put in the time, get to know that you like this, know that this is really what you want to do. And then from there, people are like, oh shit, she's just built out a marketing funnel. Look, she wants me to join her newsletter. That is so amazing. She's going to keep going with this. Okay, I'll sign up for your newsletter. The first email comes in. Thank you so much for supporting my podcast. The fact that you even found this link lets me know that you're listening. Holy shit. Thank you so much. Like, I put so much time into this, and it's truly for people like you that want to learn more about dog grooming, like whatever it is. Do you have a question? Go. Mm-hmm. Okay. I love it. A hook. So a hook would be like, all right, here's a fun, spicy one. I had a woman that had extremely volatile pelvic pain after her birth. Her pelvis and her pelvic floor had a lot of injuries and nerve damage and problems. She created a sex toy apparatus that caused, it had to be labeled a sex toy, but in reality, it was a therapy modality that allowed her to work on the pelvic tightness that she could not access, which is internal. And yeah, this is like it's her business. We'll share that one later. Make sure everybody gets access to that later. So for the title for YouTube, I knew I had to be a little like tongue in cheek because I couldn't exactly be like sex toys, relax your vagina on Thursday. You had to be like a little coy with it. This one performed well, and it was along the lines of, her name's Erin Good. Erin Good went from pain to pleasure in sex, life, and beyond. And then people were like, what the fuck are you talking about? What? Like, where? Is this a pill? Where'd she get this? What's going on? And then people clicked on it, and so many people were like, bro, I had no idea where you're going with this, but I need this tool. And no one said toy. I need this tool. I need this. I need this massager. I need this. So it was me, like, what would be the boiler line you text to your girlfriend about like a story you're going to tell her later? I think it then like flags sex. Like you can't say murder, death, sex, sexual assault. You have to like write weird words. Probably not. I'm sure I've said free, but I haven't said Luigi. No, free or fry. But I would say for a hook, as long as you're just you're giving, it's like breadcrumbs. You want to give a little bit of information. Like a boring title for that would have been pelvic floor expert creates therapy occupational tool to manage her pain. It's like that sounds like a white paper. That's all it is. That's all. Yes, that's all it is. How do you make it more enticing for the click, for the listen? Like you have to, right. It's like, but am I talking to doctors? Right. Because the women listening are like, girl, what? Where's this? Excuse me? That second title might have leaned more to an occupational therapist or a gynecologist, and then being like, what is the tool that she utilized for her pelvic floor pain? Because I've got so many customers coming in and they're like, blah, 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 blah. So you have to think about who the end user is that you want to click on it and listen. If I made an interview that was geared towards like 21-year-old girls, I'm dropping in some weird old lingo that they got going on. Like I'm going to make it, I'm adjusting my language to meet the expected language that the person watching is wanting to receive. So it's knowing your customer. It's knowing the people you want to be on the other side of the message. Sort of. Yes. Right. There's been a few episodes like I had a sexual assault survivor. He was a male. He wrote a tell-all book, which is very abnormal for males to do. I knew that this would be an episode that my typical guests might not enjoy. So I was very forthright with what we were going to discuss in the title. And I have only given 3 disclaimers. I gave a disclaimer for that episode because he was discussing in very great detail how he was groomed and the subsequent abuse that happened for 14 years after that. It required a lot of massaging, but that was strictly because of the topic, and it is literally banned on all platforms. You can't discuss childhood sexual abuse, childhood rape. It's just not allowed. So I had to get really creative with how I discussed it. I ended up titling that one something similar to, it was like through a journey of self-discovery, through self-discovery, man realizes repressed abuse. And I left it at that. Men don't talk about abuse. Repressed abuse means it was bad. And then through some journey, it revealed itself and he's gone through it. I tried to be respectful. Also, I don't like to sensationalize. Like you can turn into an Alex Cooper episode of Call Her Daddy and flippity flop, flop, flop. Like, I don't care. I don't want to hear about your sexual words and your titles. You don't need to be crass to cover a topic. I find clickbaity titles and hooks like that to be very disingenuous. And it comes off very Howard Stern, and he is so dead and gone. So like avoid any urge to shock jock things. It's just a flash in the pan of information. No, but that's your personality, and people come to you for the joy and the eruption of your energy. You're not going to put up a post that says, man, anally ass raped by neighbor for 14 years. You know what I mean? And sorry to be blunt like that, but like that was what was happening. And that's what someone of that caliber of a reporter would put. So people click. You see it on YouTube all the time. I chose to respect him, and I chose to really put down a somber note for anyone listening to prepare them for what was coming without giving too much. So there's a really fine line, but ultimately in the very beginning, so you don't get too rabbit holey for different niches, you're only worried about who you were before you figured out this problem. So you're only thinking about yourself. What were you doing then? What would have made you click and listen to this back then before you figured out your problem? I don't like to build beyond that, at least until the 6-month mark where you really know who your listener is. Data is one thing, and that's beautiful, but do you have people responding? Do you have people sharing your episodes? Do you have people reaching out to you and asking to be a guest because they like what you're doing? And they're like, wow, you so beautifully covered this, and you did it with like a lot of information, but still made it really easy for me to like take in. Like, I love what you're doing. But you need time in the space to really be able to kind of nail down in a way that's still authentic to you and in a way that's going to make you happy to do it at the frequency you choose to do it. One more thing I'll say, if there's ever a day where you have decided you're going to podcast and you don't want to, don't do it. Even if you've got a guest lined up, don't do it. I can't tell you how many people I've emailed, maybe 15. And I've been like, you know what? I really don't have the energy today. And I want to give you the best conversation experience possible. I know this is a terrible pain in the ass because you planned for this, but I just woke up today not feeling it. Can we reschedule? There's never been a person upset with me. Never, not once. And in doing that, I'm preserving what I'm putting out there. I'm not forcing myself to put something out that isn't ready because people will hear that. They'll hear me being like quiet tourist Sarah instead of like outgoing tourist Sarah. So that's just like a personal note. It really like I felt like such a piece of shit to do it the first time I did it. I'm like, oh my God, how unprofessional. No one cares. No one cares. No one cares as much as you think they care. And if you come and you're sincere and you're honest and you reach out to them as soon as you can about anything, I've had interviews get fucked up. I've recorded them and I've downloaded them and given them to my husband. He's like, what? Like, I hear nothing. Or like, the whole time. And I'm like, oh my God, our interview didn't record properly. Even that has been, it's okay. We'll have a better conversation the next time. Like, don't take it too seriously. And anyone that's going to give you any guff about it, don't reschedule with them. And right, they would have been a pain in your balls anyway. Like, you don't want to deal with people that can't understand humanity. Some days you're not in for it. All right, you had a question. Flowdesk is amazing. I have a link for 50% off for a year, so I'll put that on the link. You can use whatever you already have existing. I just choose Flowdesk because aesthetically it's very beautiful and it integrates really well with a lot of different programs like Instagram. It'll have my active Instagram feed at the bottom, and I do have quite a bit of analytics of people clicking through that. When they're done the email, they read it and go over to my Instagram page. But if you can do that on whatever you're doing, whatever works for you, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. Yeah, you could. However, I would state that all the work that you've done, you're going to be discussing on the show anyhow. And these people are with you because of that journey. And I think, again, you're just going to make too much work for yourself. If there were anything that I would do to kind of differentiate the attention that you're giving them because they're used to getting a certain something from you, I would maybe make an individual email that goes out notifying people that you're going to be creating this new outlet. You're really excited about it. Make it like a fun announcement. And if they care to be a part of it and they want to opt in to receiving newsletters when new podcasts come out, then that would be the moment where you could maybe have that built in there for them to click and opt into another email server. But if you already have people that are responding to you, you already have an existing CRM you know how to use, there's no need to complicate this. Like, I'm just suggesting what you can use. But if you have something that you love, my God, make it as easy as possible because you're going to be fitting this into your real life. I don't have children. I work for myself. I have a dog that rules my life. My husband comes home from work. Other than that, I got 8 hours of fart around all day long. So don't take anything I say to be like gospel with what you have to do. You may have children. You may have an office you have to manage. You have people you have to deal with. Like, whatever makes it easiest for you is what you utilize and you use when it comes to systems and programs. But the meat and potatoes of it all is that I want you to be authentic. I want you to know why you're doing what you're doing. I want you to know who you're talking to and what they're going to benefit from you. And remember, that person is you from 2 years ago. And I want you to take chances. Don't play it safe. That first quarter is for you to experiment. So whatever settles in or whatever little birdie you hear over here and you're like, oh, that could be fun. Freaking try it. You got nothing to lose. And people are going to let you know right away whether or not they like it or don't like it. And if they don't like it, man, thank them. Okay, thank you so much. I'm going to take that into consideration. I really appreciate your feedback. Then they're going to be like, oh, you're open to feedback? I really like what you're doing. Let me just, I'll start asking you more questions now. Like, even people that would come to me and be like, that episode was weird. And I'd be like, can you tell me why you thought it was weird? Because I thought it was okay. And then I hear why they thought it was weird. And it was mainly revolving around that man being sexually assaulted. It always turned into a greater conversation, especially for that. Then that led to me being able to keep going down this rabbit hole. And for certain platforms like YouTube, I have comments of conversations with people on YouTube because they're just like, most of them are exclaiming how brave this man is to come out. Most of them are mothers or fathers saying, we just discovered my 21-year-old son was molested when he was in second grade. He never said anything because he didn't feel safe to because boys don't cry. You never know what windows you can open by giving people the ability to feel comfortable to tell you what they think about what you're doing. And you are putting yourself in front of the public eye with a very specific end goal of being received and taken in. And with that is going to come a lot of just being observed. And people are going to comment and people are going to think and feel what they want to think and feel. Don't let it get you down. If it's something that feels like, oh, that was mean, they're having a bad day. And some greatness in you really sparks some negativity in them. But yeah, keep what you've got. Don't make it difficult for yourself. And just, if things don't feel right and you're not happy, it's time to take like a pause and step back. Mm-hmm. So there's a ton of different options. There's a ton of like stock websites. I don't have any specifically, again, because I'm spoiled. I will say Spotify is really cool with Riverside and Spotify creators. They do allow you to embed songs off of Spotify into your show. So I've heard some people that don't have access to getting something custom made, they would utilize like a Sabrina Carpenter song without lyrics, like in the underground of like their commercial in the beginning. And you'll see when you get into the platform, it's literally just dragging in, popping it into where you want. It's very easy, just play around. But you can pick music from Spotify. And then there's a ton of stock options. There's a ton of royalty-free music out there. But ultimately, at the end of the day, if you can't find access to a song or a thing that you like, who freaking cares? Like, I have a show that I listen to called Let's Get Haunted. They literally open the show like this. They're on two different notes. It sounds like in the ears. They go, welcome back to Let's Get Haunted. And then they start talking. That's their little freaking intro. That's their theme music. When it comes on my phone, when another podcast is on, I'm like, oh, okay. I'm going to listen to them now talk about ghosts in like Santa Fe. Like, okay, cool. But it can be anything. It doesn't like, the professionality of it is where people get tripped up. Like finding a song you like could take you months. In the meantime, you could just start. And then one day you could be like, guys, we finally found our freaking song. Here it is. And then you make an episode about your new song. And it's just like a little one you pop in there midweek and it's explaining what you've changed or what you've added. I've done that a ton of times. I've changed my logo 4 times. My husband's like, you teach people branding. Please stop doing this. I'm like, no. What I teach them is to be authentic to what they like and what feels right. And the first thing should have been my PR logo redone, okay? The second one should have been on a line of puff paint t-shirts I made and sold on the boardwalk. The third one was a little bit more on point with where I wanted to be. And where I'm at now is what I'm going to keep forever because it just hits. But I had to evolve from that first place to where I am now. Should I stop recording before I say this? He's going to hear this. The first time we did a theme song, it was me. He made me like an EDM clubby beat because I'm a club head. I love like raising the clubs. And I literally went, make life rich, bitch. Make life rich, bitch. It was a song, make life rich, bitch. And it's just, make life rich, bitch. That was going to be my intro. And then Fernando was like, absolutely not. This isn't on caliber with the music I put out. It just is for funsies. I thought it was going to be like a thing. Now you want it for this is like not what we're using. So he was like, let me just make a little something. I don't even know if I can play it. Like, I'll just play it for you quickly. This is literally something you could have gotten on a stock-free website. He made me something that would not stick out like a sore thumb. It sounds authentic, like it's mine, but it's not anything like Sara, 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 Sara. You know, it's just like music. Hey, thanks for having me. That's his company. This is the Make Life Rich Movement podcast. This is a disclaimer. Please note that this episode may contain paid endorsements and advertisements for products and services. I let people promote their businesses. May have a direct or indirect financial interest in products or services referenced in this episode. That's to protect me in case I make any money off a sale that comes from the show. I said all this stuff into the microphone and then he made the music behind it and he popped it in. But you can do this on Spotify. Every word I said was another recording section. First, second, music, words. Welcome back to another episode of this. Sorry, what did you say? Yeah. Just the words. But this is all on post-op. No, I stole this off of Dear Media. They pay lawyers for it. So I was like, good enough for them, good enough for me. Verbatim, I took it. Listen to my episode. Record exactly what I said in the very beginning. You're covering yourself against... If Robin were to come on my show and I promote her journal and I'm getting a 10% off code and that 10% off code is coming to me by stating that, I'm now legally protected for anything coming my way because all these platforms now want to indicate whether or not you're an ad. I'm not an ad, but I am allowing someone to promotionally state there's an ad because we're giving a 10% off or something like that. Anybody have any other question? Hi. There we go. Heck yeah, it does. And that's a beautiful thing you could all do for each other here. Like cross over in that way. And there's another thing to remember. We're all women. We all have a lot in common. Like, there's so much crossover. Okay, I encourage you all to start a show. Please let me know if and when you did. I'd be very happy to help in any regard. Feel free to DM me. I am a literal open book. It brings me joy to help. I will be consulting with you. Yes, thank you for promoting. I do, yeah. I think primarily now my main joy of work is helping someone take an idea they already have and just polishing it up a little bit. And then I know what people like to buy, and I know how to help you write or make it sound like what people want when they're listening. But you have everything you need inside of you to do this. You do not need anyone but yourself, except for another person to talk to. So don't get too fancy, but if ever, I am available, yes. However, I'm also always open via DM for very quick questions. I had to utilize Google a heck of a lot in the beginning because I didn't know anybody that was making a real podcast at the time. You could just have a random question. Please reach out. Truly, it'll just bring me joy to talk to somebody because I'm sitting next to my dog and just being quiet for hours at a time. It's okay to lean on other people, like, because I think women tend to want and think that they should do everything themselves. Yeah. Well, like, do it with them. Yeah, it slingshots you forward so much. Definitely. I think everyone in this room already has everything you need, but definitely do outsource to people if that helps you feel more comfortable too. I think, I'm really stubborn in the way that I won't ask anybody for help until it's almost an emergency. So that's not the best. But, there is a lot to be said about the communities you build around yourself, and if only for support, and for you guys to cross promote with each other. And I can't wait to hear all of your shows. So thank you so much for all of your attention. I'm sorry we ran over, and enjoy lunch. Thank you, Robin. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. And you're all going to be bright-eyed and bushy-tailed for Robin's first episode that will be happening in just a short period of time. So is lunchtime now?
I do have an intro. Oh, you do? Okay. Well, it's not